I'm going to start with the lantern, and in full disclosure, this is not my lantern that I modeled. I couldn't find it, so I'm borrowing this one from a student, but it came out pretty well, as most of them do. And the thing that I like about this as a starting place is that it's going to be pretty easy for us to light successfully. So I'm going to begin by showing you a few of the tools that you're going to need. The first one is this Arnold menu right here. Arnold is a render engine that focuses on physical lighting simulation, which means that it is designed to make things look realistic. Arnold is extremely powerful. It does a ton of stuff, and we're not going to talk about most of what it does, but we are going to use Arnold to generate our input. With that, if you don't see the Arnold menu here, oh, and it looks like I need to switch back to my modeling menu set. Arnold should be there regardless of the menu set that you're in. But if you don't see Arnold, you can go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager. The plugin for Arnold is way down, way down. It is this one here, M2A. Mine is a .mll because I am on a Windows machine. If you are on a Macintosh, you may see a different extension here, but again, you're looking for M2A. Make sure it's loaded, auto-load it, and then you are good to go. The other thing that may interest you is in the Windows menu, Settings and Preferences, Preferences. Maya does this thing called color management, where it attempts to match what you're seeing on the screen to output colors. Sometimes this is really helpful. Sometimes what you'll find is that when you output your final image, the color space changes and becomes either considerably darker or considerably lighter. If that is the case, you will want to go into your Preferences menu, uncheck Enable Color Management, and then you may see a more consistent output result. And in fact, I'm going to do that right here. Others of you will find that if you don't enable color management, you will get an inconsistent result. So I don't know which one is going to be true for you. You may want to try this both ways. So again, that's Windows, Settings and Preferences, Preferences, and then the category that I'm in here is Color Management. I'm going to work with Color Management disabled, but go ahead, try it both ways and see what you get. So with all of that done, what I'm going to do next is go to my Arnold menu, and I'm going to open the Arnold render view. The Arnold render view is going to show me my pretty picture output. So let me go ahead and do that. In the Arnold render view, by the way, Maya really likes docking things. This little lock button here will stop that and not accidentally dock my windows everywhere. So with the Arnold render view, there are a couple of things that you're going to need to know. The first one is this button here, this little triangle. This will stop or start the render. And right now the render is not running, and I know that because I'm not seeing any information being projected across the bottom here. So as soon as I hit this play button, Maya is going to start rendering. And you'll see that right away, this black square here actually stays completely black. But down at the bottom, I can see that this render took 0 seconds. It is 960 pixels by 540. I'm rendering through the perspective camera. This sample number will become important later on. We'll talk about that then. And then all the way across the bottom, if I liked this picture, I could store it as a snapshot, which would only save it within Maya's memory. It doesn't write it out, but it would let me review it later on. So this render image is kind of boring. There's not a lot going on, and the reason for that is that there are no lights in the scene, and since Arnold focuses on physical lighting simulation, obviously the first thing that we need is a light. So I'm going to go back to Arnold, and under lights, I'm going to put in a physical sky. Arnold gives you a lot of lighting options. Of all of them, we're really only going to talk about the physical sky and the sky dome today. And what both of these do is create general lighting scenarios for your scene. The physical sky is the one I'm going to use here because it tries to simulate sunlight, and I think that that's going to be really nice for our lantern. So let me go ahead and add that, and now you can see my lantern. That took an entire second. So, other things you need to know. The play button that I pushed before has changed into a little square. This square will stop the render running, and that's going to be super useful if your computer is maybe a little bit slower or a little bit unhappier with the rendering idea. Some of them are. Some of them get very unhappy with this. There's nothing wrong with that. This button will pause the render and let you reposition everything you need here. So with the render paused, I'm going to add a couple of things. The first one I'm going to add is a polygon primitive plane, which I'm going to scale up a little bit. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that you can see the true beauty of the physical sky, which is that it will automatically add shadows for you, and that is just lovely. As I move the camera in 3D space, you'll see that the render automatically updates, which again, you may love, you may hate, and just remember that this little pause button is here for you. You'll also see that when the render completes, it becomes slightly grainy. It never seems like it really fully finishes. That's because of this sample number here. The sample number controls how long the render takes and also how detailed it is. So at the very end of the rendering process, I will go back and finish this whole thing up by talking about samples and how to change the sample setting. So I'm going to pause here. I've got my lantern, I've got my physical sky, I've got a little plane, and I just want to be sure that everybody is okay getting to this point. In the next video, I am going to set up some basic materials so that we can make the lantern look pretty and shiny. And then we'll model a little candle, do some effect lighting, and set up a final render.